Present company excluded.
Well, you're half right. But, but now, are there since you've done massive research on the numerous conspiracy theories, are there certain hallmarks of a good conspiracy? Are there certain things that the best conspiracies have in common, like shadowy historical roots, or a conspiracy to control one particular aspect of life?
Well, what I have noticed, it's hard to pick a favorite. It depends on whether you want the craziest one or the most plausible.
I'm just wondering if they have anything in common. Something.
Well, yeah. When you get into the more science fiction type conspiracy theories,
the X-Files type.
Yeah, well, there are more X-Files type theories around than they've done on X-Files itself. There are so many conspiracy theories about various aliens meddling with us. This goes back to Charles Fort, who in the 1920s wrote a couple of books on that theme. There's all sorts of ideas about who it is, whether they come from Sirius or Zeta Reticuli, whether they're Greys or some other types, or
all of the above.
And when you get into that literature enough, you find out that it's the most science fiction and futuristic theories are curiously the most medieval. What it comes down to is a battle between good and evil on a cosmological level, with the Earth as just one part of the major. It goes back before Christianity to Zarathustra, who had the Ahriman and Mazda, these two gods who are in perpetual war with each other. And in Christianity, they made the good one God and the bad one the devil. But in Zarathustrianism, you're never quite sure who's the good one or the bad one. You got to make a choice, but you don't know you're choosing correctly. You don't know who's going to win, which I find more interesting. It is. It's more existential if you recognize your own uncertainty.
Well, is there a possibility then that some of these science fictional conspiracies, the Philip K. Dick type conspiracies, the X-File type conspiracies that are floating around now, are an upcoming mythology, somehow more related to the emergence of a new mythology in the human mind than they are to actual physical events that are taking place on Earth with physical aliens and physical UFOs?
Well, they're definitely mythology in the Jungian sense. I don't mean to say that they're all false. I don't know enough to say anything is all false. Some of them are so absurd that I can reject them, but some of them are more plausible than others. But they make a mythology in the sense that they give you a cosmic theory that explains everything and gives you a place in the universe and so on. Carl Jung spotted that way back in the 40s. He wrote, 52 I think it was, not the 40s. He wrote a book called Flying Saucers, A Modern Myth of Things Seen in the Skies, in which he predicted this would be the major religion of the second half of the 20th century, and we're more and more moving toward that.
Well,
more and more the extraterrestrials are replacing angels and demons.
Right.
There are good extraterrestrials and bad extraterrestrials, and not only that, but we got the incubi and succubi back too. In the Middle Ages, they had these sex demons that attacked people in their sleep. Now they're extraterrestrials instead of being demons, but they're still attacking people in their sleep.
Still absconding with them, mating with them, probing them, and doing...
Yeah, there's some place in a galaxy far, far away, according to this school of thought, where they get it, whenever they're really high on some really vicious kind of chemical, they suddenly all say, let's go down to Earth and have a go at somebody's butt again, you know.
Take on Whitley Strieber again. It was fun. Didn't Jacques Vallée, the French writer, do a whole book about the correspondences between the hallmarks of UFO sightings and sightings of the Holy Virgin Mary?
Yes, there's a whole bunch of parallels. The Fatima, the miracles at Fatima, which included light brighter than the sun, which plunged toward the earth, and strange sounds in the sky, music coming from the heavens and whatnot. It would be a UFO sighting if the kids didn't say they saw the Virgin Mary.
So maybe UFOs are just the modern mind's way of attaching some kind of explanation to some experience that's beyond explanation.
Yeah, I personally believe very strongly in UFOs because, well, I see 3 or 4 of them every week. I told that to
airplanes that you don't know the name of.
I told that to a friend of mine. He really looked like, oh my God, you really have gone crazy at last. But what I mean is the sky is full of things that I can't identify. I don't know what they are. But not only that, but there are UNFOs, too, unidentified non-flying objects. I see them all the time.
Oh, in the garden.
That could be because I had a lot of training in general semantics, and I'm not quick to identify things. All my identifications are tentative.
It sounds like George C. Scott and Dr. Strangelove. Just like Dwight Hall, factor in, sir. Well, do you have is there one or more conspiracies that really appeal to you, that tickle you beyond all fancy? That either are so absurd that they just make you laugh out loud, or so realistic that they might actually have a chance to be true?
Well, there are quite a few that amuse me. What comes to mind right off the top of my head is Lyndon LaRouche has come up with some of the most wonderful conspiracy theories of all. But my favorite, I think, is the little pamphlet he wrote about Henry Kissinger called Kissinger, The Politics of Faggotry, which shows just how far out LaRouche is. He prefers the word faggot to gay because he knows it's more insulting. And somebody who writes like that, he's not trying to convince everybody. He just wants to have a small cult of true believers. At least that's what his style sounds like to me. Kissinger's wife slugged one of LaRouche's disciples for tracking them through an airport, yelling at her, your husband goes for little boys, your husband goes for little boys. She decked him.
Well, the conspiracy of everything is under control, the conspiracy of, the Encyclopedia of Conspiracy Theories is due out in bookstores in July.
That's right.
That's correct. And what are you working on now? I know most of your fans are clamoring for more fiction.
Well, I'm working on a rewrite of The New Inquisition.
Okay.
And I'm also working on a rewrite of what used to be Playboy's Book of Forbidden Words, which Playboy doesn't have the rights to anymore. It's going to be published by Hull House here in San Jose.
I am familiar with them.
You're familiar with Hull House? Yeah, it's named after Uncle Ho.
Yeah, the Chinese god of laughter.
That's right.
Or Ho Chi Minh, or
well, one of them. Some wise Oriental sage. Just because it sounds like an old joke about New Orleans.
Or just because, it takes on a whole different meaning in New Orleans.
The old joke about New Orleans is any man who gets off the train there has one thought in mind: do I check into the hotel first, or do I go to the Hull House right away? But. One of the ones that really fascinates me is the Howard Hunt, Richard Nixon, Flight 553, Bay of Pigs mystery. Oh,
that's right. I was supposed to mention that, and I forgot. So please do go on.
Well, in the Watergate tapes, Nixon tells Dean Hunt wants $1 million. And Dean tells Nixon that Hunt wants $1 million, and Nixon says, well, I can get $1 million.
Oh, I know this quote. I can do it. We could get $1 million. We could do it. We could do it. It wouldn't be easy, but we could do it.
Yeah, then he goes on and says Hunt might spill the whole Bay of Pigs thing. And then later he said that to Haldeman in another tape. He said, Hunt is threatening to spill the whole Bay of Pigs thing. Now, I wrote a book many years ago in which I asked the question, what Bay of Pigs thing hadn't come out by 1974 that Nixon was willing to pay $1 million to cover up? Well, it seems that Ehrlichman, in his book about the Watergate scandals, and A.J. Weberman, who has the biggest and best JFK assassination site on the web, it's a hard one to read. You got to scroll down each page before you can get to the next. Very old-fashioned, but it's got more data in it than any other. Weberman has done a lot of research on that too, and it seems that Nixon had a code he used for certain subjects, and the whole Bay of Pigs thing was his code for the Kennedy assassination.
Oh.
And if that's true, if Ehrlichman is telling the truth and Weberman has got the backup evidence correct, then Hunt was threatening to reveal something about the Kennedy assassination that Nixon was willing to pay $1 million to cover up. This is the kind of theory that I find remotely plausible and not totally crazy. Because Nixon did start paying the money to Hunt, and Hunt's wife was carrying some of it when she was on a plane that crashed under very mysterious circumstances, Flight 553.
And because these are people who wouldn't involve themselves in flights of fancy, this is something concrete that they're talking about too.
When Nixon's willing to pay $1 million to cover it up, it means means something.
Yes.
And Flight 553, the pilot who, eerily enough, was named Captain Whitehouse, he had a lot of cyanide in his bloodstream, which is the explanation. The official explanations of that are it was gas released when the plane crashed, but the critics claim that you couldn't get that much cyanide from that, or it would have to be put into him in his drink or something like that. But the Spotlight magazine printed the photographs of the three tramps with Howard Hunt, an attempt to show one of the three tramps on the grassy knoll was Howard Hunt.
Behind the fence on the grassy knoll.
And he sued them for libel, and he lost. The jury not only found Spotlight innocent, but one of the foremen of the jury told the press afterwards that the defense counsel, Mark Lane, by the way, she said, Mr. Lane wanted us to believe the government shot the president. After we examined all the evidence, we came to the conclusion the government did shoot the president.
Well, is there anybody looking into these things besides yourself?
Oh, yeah, there's the Assassination Investigation Committee in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Okay.
They are very well informed about all this. They got a list of over 100 people connected with the Kennedy assassination who also died
under
very mysterious circumstances, like Albert Guy Bogard.
Right, Dorothy Kilgallen was
Albert Guy Bogard was an automobile salesman who said Lee Harvey Oswald came in, took a car for a test drive, went 70 miles an hour on the freeway, and gave him a lot of pro-Soviet propaganda, and said he was coming into a lot of money. Now, Oswald did not drive.
Maybe it was Kerry Thornley.
Maybe it was Kerry Thornley. It was, well, he's called the second Oswald, the guy in that story, who appears several times around Dallas in mysterious contexts. But Albert Guy Bogard, after telling that story, he was found dead in a cemetery, shot through the head, pronounced suicide. There's so many people who committed suicide.
Under mysterious, non-suicidal type circumstances.
George de Mohrenschildt, who was a friend of Oswald's, even though he was a CIA operative and very anti-Soviet. When he was subpoenaed by the House Select Committee on Assassinations, he was found dead and pronounced a suicide, although his wife refused to accept that. Sam Giancana, who's suspected by a lot of people, think the mafia were involved. As soon as he got a subpoena from the House Select Committee on Assassinations, he was shot through the mouth. The mafia calls that sasso in bocca. That's punishment for suspected informers. Johnny Roselli, when he got his subpoena, he disappeared and showed up floating in a barrel in the Gulf of Mexico. I could go on and on. The Cambridge, like I said, this group in Cambridge has over 100 cases like that. It does make you wonder.
Yeah, but unfortunately, we're almost out of time, so we can't go through all 100 of them. But
I don't know all the 100. I'm not that.
Well, it's about time to wrap things up, so let me mention once again the Robert Anton Wilson's newest book is Everything is Under Control, the Encyclopedia of Conspiracy Theories. You can also find out more about this book and conspiracy theories in general on the web, www.blackops.com, a wonderful website for conspiracies.
Or they can try my own website, www.rawilson.com.
It was the source for much amusement and information and enlightenment as well.
And I think it has the best set of links of any website around. From my page, you can go anywhere you want on there. You can find all sorts of weird things.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Robert Anton Wilson, for being with us tonight.
It was a privilege being here.
It was a pleasure to have you.
Let's go out and get drunk.
I'm right behind you, big guy.